The key knowledge statement is to understand the techniques for the design, implementation, and monitoring of security controls, including security awareness programs. Security needs to be aligned with business objectives to provide reasonable reduction in risk. Security objectives may include the following: ensure the continued availability of information systems, ensure the integrity of information stored on its computer systems and security while the information is in transit, preserve the confidentiality of sensitive data while stored and in transit, ensure compliance with applicable laws, regulations, and standards. Let us continue discussing design, implementation, and monitoring of security controls in the next screen. Ensure adherence to trust and obligation requirements for any information assets in accordance with the applicable privacy policy or privacy laws and regulations. Prudence in application of controls is important because controls entail a cost either directly or indirectly by impacting on business operations. The Business Impact Analysis, BIA, is the process used to establish the material adverse events the business should be worried about. The following screen lists the main areas to be covered under this knowledge statement. The main areas to cover here are key elements of information security management, critical success factors to information security, inventory and classifications of information assets, network infrastructure security. In the next screen, we will learn about information security management. Effective ISM is the most critical factor in protecting information assets and privacy. The factors that raise the profile of information and privacy risk include electronic trading through service providers and directly with customers, loss of organizational barriers through use of remote access facilities, and high-profile security exposures, viruses, denial of service, DOS attacks, intrusions, unauthorized access, disclosures, and identity theft over the Internet, etc. Let us continue discussing Information Security Management, ISM, in the next screen. Security awareness and education through training and regular updates, written policies and procedures and updates, non-disclosure statements signed by employees, newsletters, web pages, videos, and other media, visible enforcement of security rules, simulated security incidents and simulated drills, rewards for reporting suspicious events, periodic audits, monitoring and compliance. Control includes an element of monitoring and usually relates to regulatory legal compliance, incident handling and response. In the next few screens, we will learn about roles and responsibilities under the Information Security Management. The security objectives to meet business requirements are to ensure continued availability of information systems, to ensure integrity of information stored in systems and while in transit, to preserve confidentiality of sensitive data, to ensure conformity to applicable laws, regulations, and standards, to ensure adherence to trust and obligation requirements, to ensure protection of sensitive data. Data integrity, as it relates to security objectives, generally refers to accuracy, completeness, consistency or neutrality, validity, and verifiability of the data once loaded on the system. Integrity refers to reliability of data. Let us continue discussing Information Security Management, ISM, in the next screen. The key elements of ISM: senior management, commitment, and support. The risk management begins at the top. Policies and procedures. The framework that captures top management declaration of direction. Organization. Clearly defined and allocated roles and responsibilities supplemented with guidance. Usually relates to regulatory legal compliance. Let us continue discussing Information Security Management, ISM, in the next screen. Roles and responsibilities must be defined, documented, and communicated to personnel and management. IS Security Steering Committee is represented by individuals from various management levels. It also discusses and approves security policies, guidelines, and procedures, with input from end users, executive management, auditors, security administration, IS personnel, and legal counsel. The committee is formally established with appropriate terms of reference. Executive management responsible for the overall protection of information assets and issuing and maintaining the policy framework. Security Advisory Group is responsible for defining information risk management process and acceptable level of risk and reviewing security plans. It is comprised of people involved in the business and provides comments on security issues to Chief Security Officer, CSO. It also advises the business whether the security programs meet business objectives. Chief Information Security Officer, CISO, is a senior-level corporate official responsible for articulating and enforcing policies used to protect information assets. He has a much broader role than CSO, who is normally only responsible for physical security within the organization. Information asset owners and data owners are entrusted with the responsibility for the owned asset, including performance of a risk assessment, selection of appropriate controls to mitigate the risk, and to accept the residual risk. Process owners ensure appropriate security measures consistent with organizational policy are maintained. Users comply with procedures set out in the security policy and adhere to privacy and security regulations, often specific to sensitive data, for example, health, legal, finance, etc. Chief Privacy Officer, CPO, is a senior-level corporate official and is responsible for articulating and enforcing policies used to protect customers' and employees' privacy rights. External parties follow procedures set out in the security policy. They adhere to privacy and security regulations, often specific to sensitive data, for example, health, legal, finance, etc. Information Security Administrator is a staff-level position. He is responsible for providing adequate physical and logical security for IS programs, data, and equipment, normally guided by the information security policies. Security specialists and advisors assist with the design, implementation, management, and review of security policies, standards, and procedures. IT developers implement information security within their applications. IS auditors provide independent assurance on appropriateness and effectiveness of information security objectives and controls related to these objectives. In the next screen, we will learn about System Access Permissions. System access permission is the ability to do something with a computer resource: read, create, modify, or delete a file or data, execute a program, or use an external connection. It is controlled at the physical and/or logical level. Logical controls govern access to information and programs. It is built into operating systems, invoked through access control software, and incorporated in application programs, DBs, network control devices, and utilities. Let us continue discussing system access permissions in the next screen. Physical controls restrict entry and exit of personnel, movement of equipment and media. They include badges, memory cards, keys, and biometrics. Access is granted on a documented, need-to-know basis, with legitimate business requirement based on least privilege and on segregation of duties principles. Access principles relate to 4 layers of security, namely network, platform, typically the operating system, database, and application. In the next screen, we will learn about mandatory and discretionary access controls. The mandatory access controls, MACs, are logical access controls, MACs, that cannot be modified by normal users or data owners. They act by default and are used to enforce critical security without possible exception. Only administrators can grant a right of access guided by an established policy of the organization. Discretionary access controls, DACs, controls may be configured or modified by the users or data owners. Access may be activated or modified by a data owner. DACs cannot override MACs, and they act as additional filters to restrict access further. In the next few screens, we will learn about privacy management issues and role of IS auditors. Privacy issues relates to personally identifiable information, for example, personal identification number, PIN. Regulations generally restrict use of such data by giving the subject individual rights to access and correct that data. It also governs how such data is obtained, requiring knowledge and consent of the data subject. Impact of risks, including marketing risks, transborder data flow, and variations in regulations, and may require privacy experts during risk assessment. The goals of a privacy impact assessment are identifying the nature of personally identifiable information relating to business processes, documenting the collection, use, disclosure, storage, and destruction of personally identifiable information, providing management with an understanding of privacy risk and options to mitigate this risk, ensuring accountability for privacy, and facilitating compliance with relevant regulations. IS audit considerations relating to privacy include adequacy of privacy assessment, for example, compliance with privacy policy, laws, and other regulations, and the manner in which IT is used for competitive gain. Another consideration is the ongoing assessments conducted when new products, services, systems, operations, processes, and third parties are under consideration. Besides, transborder and multinational laws should also be considered. Focus and extent of privacy impact assessment may depend on changes in technology, processes, or people, as shown below. In the next few screens, we will learn about information security and external parties. Human resources security and third parties. Security roles and responsibilities of employees, contractors, and third-party users should be defined and documented in accordance with the organizational security policy. Information security policies to guide employees, contractors, and third-party users. Information security and external parties. Security of information and processing facilities must be maintained when external party services or products are introduced. Controls must be agreed to and defined in a formal agreement. Organization must have right to audit the implementation and operations. External party arrangements include service providers, ISPs, network providers, managed security services, customers, outsourcing facilities and/or operations, IT systems, data collection services, management and business consultants and auditors, developers and suppliers, cleaning, catering, and other outsourced support services. Others include temporary personnel, student placement, and other casual, short-term appointments. The risks related to external party access is information processing facilities required to be accessed by external parties. These types of access include physical access, logical access, network connectivity, organization and external party, value and sensitivity of information involved, and its criticality for business operations, and legal and other regulatory requirements. Security in relation to customers involve identifying security requirements for customers' access, the customer access security considerations, asset protection, description of product or service to be provided, reasons, requirements, and benefits for customer access, access control policy, arrangements for reporting, notification, and investigation of information inaccuracies, target levels of service and unacceptable levels of service, right to monitor and revoke any activity related to an organization's assets, intellectual property rights and copyright assignment.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.